Hello out there. How's it going? This is Boston Jay and Jesse from Working Man's Radio, and who are we speaking to?
This is Waldo Dave and Waldo Steve.
Hey, Waldo Dave and Waldo Steve. I think we have to, before we even get into this interview, I think we have to just say thank you. Thank you. But we're very interested in talking to you. This is kind of exciting considering we've been hearing this term for many, many years, and there's always been many questions about the originators of it. So we're very interested in chatting with you guys and hearing a little bit of your story. You guys doing good tonight?
We're doing excellent. It's actually about 3:15 here in California, almost 4:20.
It's 4:20 somewhere.
That's right.
Where are you guys right now in California?
We're in San Anselmo over at Steve's house. We're using his wife's, got two phones that we can get on and do the party thing. Still in Marin County.
Awesome. One of my favorite places, also the home of my favorite band, the Grateful Dead. So great talking to you guys. I'm glad you guys called in. It was our friend Chaz, who's now your friend, mutual friends here, told us that he ran into you guys and that you guys were interested in chatting with us, and it's just funny how it all works out, especially this weekend, you know?
Yeah, well, it works out every weekend for us. We're getting used to it.
I bet. You guys are popular guys, especially this time of the year. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Waldo brothers, where you guys are from and how, when you guys all started hanging out and how you guys got that nickname?
Well, we used to hang out, like five of us would hang out, and we'd go on these little trips that Steve started. They called them safaris. You can tell them the beginning of that.
This is like in autumn where it started. The football games would start. And, of course, football games,
they turn into it.
Yeah. And it started around autumn, that's when football games start. And I used to just freeze my butt off, standing around watching the football games. And I was bored watching these football players just go back and forth on the field.
Yeah, we were the guys below the stand smoking a joint.
So,
I know those guys well.
I've had enough of this. And I read something in Rolling Stone magazine, which at the time nobody read it. It was a real counterculture magazine. Very few people read it. And there was an article about guys who were developing the first holograms, which were down on the peninsula, kind of down towards Silicon Valley. And it said in the article that these guys who were developing holograms these scientists were so fascinated by it that they were actually there all night, 24/7 working on it. So I said, why don't I go down and knock on the door and see if I can see these holograms?
This is like 1970.
Wow.
Yeah, 1970. So I went down there, I pounded on the door, and these guys were happy to see some stone kid interested in what they were doing. And they said, come right in. And we became instant friends. And the next week, I went back to my four buddies, and I said, hey, you got to see this. We all got high, went down, and hung out with the scientists.
And the scientists loved it. Crack them up, and they gave us a full tour of everything. And this is how, wherever we met someone, out in public, arches, reservoirs, people give us tours.
For some reason, we made friends wherever we went. And from that point, from that one trip of seeing the very first holograms, the mission was to find something unusual to do every single week. Not go to a football game, but to figure out something creative to do.
Take a little trip and then invest in alternative entertainment. And we called it a safari.
Kind of like Cub Scout field trips, except we were stoned.
Definitely sounds like an adventure. That's awesome. That is awesome.
And I actually wrote up logs of all these different adventures that we figured out. I got to admit, some of them were dangerous, but you're 17 years old, you're stoned, you're invincible, so you do things which.
Tell them about the Golden Gate Bridge, Steve.
Well, one time I was thinking, I've never walked across the Golden Gate Bridge. Let's just get stoned and walk across the Golden Gate Bridge, and all of a sudden it hit me. I go, no, let's go underneath the bridge.
So we went under there.
So we climbed out underneath on the girders, stoned out of our minds. And there were big, giant painters' nets.
Those big nets under the bridge to save them from going on.
Well, if painters fall off the bridge, their lives would be saved by falling into the painters' nets.
Ah.
So we just got stoned and jumped into them and started using them like trampoline.
That's funny.
So we did a lot of trips like that and trippy things like that. We met so many weird, strange people. And we had such a good time meeting them all.
We used to everybody during that area, everybody hitchhiked. And it was completely safe. Everybody picked everybody up. Everybody shared weed and drugs and food and lodging and it was just, at the time, everybody hitchhiked. So sometimes we'd pick up an innocent hitchhiker, and we would ask them, hey, do you mind if we get the car washed all along the way? And they always said they wouldn't care. And without saying anything at all to the hitchhiker, we would go through the automatic car wash, and then
roll down the window.
When you got to the point where you got the 120 mile an hour winds that blow off the car, we would roll down the windows and start screaming, and this hurricane was coming in. The hitchhiker was always like freaked out and wide eyes. It was always fun to play with people.
So we did a lot of goofy things like that, and we used to meet at this place on campus there at Santa Fe High. It's called The Wall, and we met at another place called The Wall way up on the hill. But we'd meet on The Wall on campus, and we'd watch people go by every day, all of us, and we'd mock all these people, make imitations, and
we made fun of them. We had impersonations of everybody at the school, the jocks, the cheerleaders,
we had a lot of laughs. We were real wisecracking kids,
and we made up tons and tons of slang besides 420. We have a whole hundreds of pieces of slang. 420 only
just the tip of the iceberg.
Just the tip of the iceberg of all the stuff we invented. But 420, by some strange thing in the cosmos, is somehow took off by itself, and it just started from generation to generation.
How it originally started, though, is Steve got a treasure map. I'll let you.
Okay. So we're sitting on the wall one day, and a buddy of mine, not one of the Waldos, but another buddy, came up and said that his brother was in the United States Coast Guard. And so my buddy said, his brother was in the Coast Guard, and that he and a bunch of the other Coast Guard guys that were growing all this pot. So they said they thought that these guys in the Coast Guard who were growing pot, for some reason they figured out that their commanding officer was going to bust them.
And they got paranoid.
And they were paranoid. So they decided to let us pick the pot, and they drew a map for us of where to find it, a treasure map, and gave us full permission. So we decided that we were going to go find the pot, get high and find the pot. And
what else would you do?
Yeah, and we decided, because some of the guys, school got out approximately around 3 o'clock. It was a staggered schedule. Some people
a couple of them had football practice. I quit because I didn't want the jock thing anymore.
Yeah. So a couple of guys had football practice that lasted about an hour after school. So we decided to meet at a statue on the high school campus at 420. There's a statue of the chemist Louis Pasteur
by the famous sculpture artist Buffano.
It was a very, very famous sculpture.
Still there on the campus.
Very cool.
Yeah, the wall where we hung out is there. We were just there the day before yesterday taking some photos. The statue is still there, just perfectly preserved, hasn't been changed, like just frozen in time.
Have you guys put into the High School Hall of Fame yet there?
No, but...
Hall of Shame.
So we would meet at the statue at 420, get high, and go out looking for the weed. We would remind each other in the hallways of school all day long.
If a Waldo would pass another, we'd nod and give the old 420 Louis. That's what it was originally.
Or a reminder. So then, of course, we got high. We went out and looked for the pot. We had great time.
Well, we met at the statue.
Yeah, we met at the statue. We smoked. It takes about 40 minutes to drive out there, so we got high all the way out there listening to the Grateful Dead and the
Lee Michaels,
the New
Riders, Purple Shades,
Commander Cody,
Doobie Brothers,
all the Allman Brothers.
Doobie Brothers were one of our favorites.
I bet. Great musicians.
The Allman Brothers, everything that the Allman Brothers did. Marshall Tucker Band, everything, everything.
Donnie and Marie.
No, not that. So everything that came out of there, we were heavily, heavily into music. Of course, this whole area, Marin County, there was tons of bands that were based out of here.
You guys were in the mecca for great music in the 60s.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Grateful Dead's office is right downtown Santa Fe. It used to be. And
so this went on for we looked for maybe a month or two. Every week we'd go look for the pot. Eventually, instead of saying 420 Louis, we just dropped it to 420. We'd mind each other in the halls. We'd smile. It was our private joke.
And we used it as a code around our teachers and our parents because they didn't know what it meant. So we could use this code and talk about it, and they wouldn't know what we're talking about.
And, we never found the patch of pot.
What did this map look like? That's what I'm curious.
Just a white piece of paper.
Hand-drawn?
Hand-drawn map.
Hand-drawn.
By a stoner.
I don't have the map. I can envision it.
It didn't say you are here.
So, again, that became our secret code. We thought it was just I could walk up to one of the other Waldos, and I could just say 420, and somehow, like mental telepathy, he would know if I'm saying, do you have any? Do you want to go get stoned? I could be saying, are you stoned? I could be saying one of 10 different things, and it was almost like mental telepathy from the way you said it.
It was all-encompassing.
It was all-encompassing, right.
So how many Waldos were there?
There's 5.
There were
5.
So what do we got? Steve, Dave,
Larry, Mark, and Jeff.
Okay.
And we all live here in this area.
And we still see each other regularly. We go on skiing trips. We
go hiking in the national parks. We go out to dinner.
We went back to New York when High Times invited us back there to be presenters at their
their music awards.
Music awards.
Yeah.
Yeah. We gave an award to the new writers, and
so we talk to each other like every day.
So you guys sound like your brothers, like you hang out every day. So
exactly.
That's awesome. That's great friendship. I love hearing that.
Yeah, well, it goes back, like Waldo Mark, I know him going back to first grade, and Larry going back to what, 7th grade?
Yeah, it's 7th grade. Yeah, sure.
Do you guys still refer to yourselves as Waldos amongst you?
Yes,
absolutely.
If I pick up the phone, Steve will go Waldo, and I'll go Waldo.
Really cool, guys. You guys sound like you're having a lot of fun still. That's awesome.
Oh, we do.
We're still having adventures. Like, for example, a couple years ago, we were skiing up at Tahoe, and I'm in this room with Larry, and we toked a little bit, and we ate a Cinnabon, and all of a sudden the fire alarm goes off in our room, and this is on Harris on State Line in Nevada, and we're going, oh, shit. We just set off the fire alarm, and I'm jumping around, hopping around, putting my pants on. Larry's running out the door. So we go downstairs. We're hiding. We're totally paranoid. And then I asked some cop walking downstairs, I'm all, what was that fire alarm about? He's all, some kid pulled the fire alarm on the first floor.
They were paranoid as can be. Dave and I were going on a trip to go hiking in one of the national parks, and we were on an airplane. And we were sitting in the back of the plane, and I was sitting in the window seat, and Dave was sitting in the aisle seat. And we didn't want anybody sitting in the seat between us. So I had a newspaper. I held up one side of the newspaper and sitting in the window seat. Dave held up the other side of the newspaper,
making it look like there's somebody between us.
Yeah, making it look like there was somebody sitting in the middle seat reading a newspaper. So everybody would come back to the back of the plane, think that somebody was reading a newspaper. They turn around and go back up to the front of the plane.
So we're still doing this stuff. We never grew up, I guess.
So back to the whole 420 thing. So you guys are doing this. Did it start to grow throughout your high school? And your friends, other people in your school decided to pick it up and spread it?
We all had
younger brothers.
Younger brothers picked it up, and then their classmates picked it up from them. And then I was a little older than some of the other Waldos. I went off to college, and when I went off to college, I started using it with those people at another city. This is down in San Diego, and those people picked up and took it to their houses. And then Larry went off to another state university. He used it with those people.
And I worked in a band my brother managed with Phil Lesh of the Grateful Dead called Too Loose to Truck, and they had luminaries like David Crosby and Terry Haggerty in the band. It was a summer tour, and I used the term all the time then. Plus
Waldo Mark, his father, he handled real estate needs for the Grateful Dead. When they needed a place to rehearse, they needed places to store equipment, they needed office space. Everybody in the Grateful Dead organization made good money, so they all bought homes in the Marin County Hills. So Mark's dad would find them their homes, their office space, rehearsal space, everything. So we were usually on the guest list, and always around them, or if he found them a new rehearsal spot, we'd be down there hanging out.
On Front Street, we'd hang out on Front Street while they were rehearsing and listen to them rehearse, and shoot some hoops outside and get high.
And when you're smoking with them, of course, you use 420, and then so the Grateful Dead community picked it up from us, and a lot of it sure did spread from us into the Grateful Dead community.
But there was other ways it spread, and about the late 70s, early 80s, we both noticed, hey, we're seeing this on park benches. We're seeing it painted on walls.
It's hats, T-shirts.
You know, and we're going, hey, man, this thing is really getting big. From a stupid little joke we made.
And everybody still thought that it was a police code.
Yeah.
You know, and other things. They thought it was, 420 chemical constituents in marijuana.
All proven wrong. Steve contacted Stephen Hager at High Times in 1998, and he told him our story.
And Stephen Hager said, great story. This is fascinating. We've never been able to find the start of it. He said, do you have proof? And we said, absolutely. We have physical evidence proof. So he got on a plane, came out here, and spent a couple days with us researching it. He was the first one to research it. Later on, we had the LA Times came up here.
CBS News, Huffington Post.
ABC
I mean, this thing's gone global. This is not small.
Esquire magazine.
Oh, yeah, it's global.
Playboy,
global.
all kinds of news organizations. One thing is because I went away to college earlier, because I was a little bit older, Dave.
I wrote him a letter.
Dave wrote me a letter
telling him about my experiences with the band and
with the Grateful Dead and Phil Lesh and everybody.
Getting high with those guys, and I in the letter, one of the letters I wrote him, I said, Steve, here's a little 420 for your weekend. He was in college, and I rolled him a joint and put it in the envelope.
And I've got the letter. I still have it. It's postmarked early 70s. Again, references to 420 in that context with.
Plus, we had other friends of Steve's that wrote him letters with references to 420.
I have a buddy that went off to Israel and was living in a kibbutz, and he wrote me a letter. I have it right here. It says, "Hey, no 420 here." It's postmarked. So we have a number of letters. Then, when in the year when we were at Santa Fe High School campus and we were running off on all these safaris and making up all kinds of weird noises and slang and different things, there was a girl named Patty, and she had heard stories about what we were doing. She thought it was really neat. So she went down into her arts and crafts class and made us a flag.
It's a batik flag, they call it. It was made with wax and colors.
Yeah, and kind of like a tie-dye thing in the style of the late 60s, early 70s.
But it said 420 on it.
And has a big marijuana leaf. And has another piece of slang that we used on it. So we still have this flag.
We still have the letters and other letters.
And then Patty wrote me a letter when I was in college, and she referred to the 420 flag, which is also postmarked. So that helps state the flag. But also, an auction house or a forensic lab can date that flag to have approximate date of creation.
With all this notoriety, as usual, you're going to have all kinds of people coming out of the woodwork claiming they came up with this thing.
Oh, absolutely. The first time I ever heard it was 96. I was at the first Fish Festival in Plattsburgh, New York at the Clifford Ball, and they come out at 420 and said, it's 420, y'all, and that kicked off the whole festival. A lot of us were like, what's that? What's that? And that was the first time I had ever heard it, and then we tried to track it, and we heard all the different rumors.
Well, in the last several years, like I said, every person in the country is coming out of the woodwork claiming they started this thing, and what we've created is a whole cult of 420 claimers.
Well, you guys have had legislation. SB 420,
AB 420.
SB 420 in California was the government legislation that basically created medicinal marijuana and the refinements of it in California. We had nothing to do with it. Pure coincidence.
It's amazing how it's taken on a life of its own, and it's just.
What it gets back to, though, is that all these claimers that are coming out of the woodwork have no proof. We're the only ones with a true story, and we can back it up with physical evidence.
I keep a big binder that tracks how far 420 goes into society, besides the Senate Bill 420. But
got a whole.
When's the book coming out?
On Price is Right, some guy went on the show and bidded everything at 420.
The Simpsons had a 420 episode. So did Seth Rogen's show.
Well, Pulp Fiction, all the clocks were set at 420 throughout the whole movie.
That's right.
That was
there was an entire
hilarious.
Family Guy episode. Family Guy episode 420. 7.4 million viewers watched it.
So a lot of people are out there claiming, but we're the only ones with proof, and we challenge anybody that thinks they can predate us, because there is no one. We're telling the truth, and
we believe you. You sound it.
Oh, well, yeah. We also have in the vault with all these letters and the flag and stuff. actually found in a friend's attic, Santa Fe High School, an actual school newspaper, the red and white from the early 70s. And one of our buddies was in an interview, you know, the question man. They always have a question man.
Always.
And the question man said, you know, if you could say anything to the graduating class, what would you say? And one of our buddies responds 420. So we actually have a school newspaper.
Wow, that's really, really cool.
From the early 70s.
Who would have ever imagined that out of just a couple of stoners hanging out, that this would become some global thing? It's become the official holiday for
Well, the thing about it is it's so huge, but we honestly have never made any money off this thing. It was just a joke to us, and it still is, and we're amused, and we're happy everybody enjoys it.
It's hilarious. I mean, I'm from Boston, and I've been living in Atlanta for the last few years, and you still hear it everywhere, reference shirts, bumper stickers. It's gone global. It's absolutely awesome.
You know, I read just about 2 hours ago that the Coachella Music Festival goes until April 20th. I wonder if they're going to do anything there at 420.
Well, listen to this. I read yesterday in the Denver Times, the Cannabis Cup there. They're having this weekend.
In
the
Denver,
music
right?
festival. The festival's called the Waldo's Music Festival.
Very fitting, very fitting. Yes. So you guys have a book or anything in the works with all your memorabilia and all your...
Well, we have some things we can't talk about at this time.
Understandable.
But like I said, we have never made any money.
I've been definitely in the past 2 years been trying to document and accumulate information. All of a sudden I'm trying to remember out of 200 pieces of slang and noises and, stuff besides 420, making like a dictionary of all the stuff that we came up with.
We also documented a lot of the safaris.
I started remembering and writing up all the different
We all of us sat
safaris.
down and write down our memories.
You started remembering, huh? That's kind of ironic.
And and also, it's not just looking back. We're into looking around the next corner, going into the future.
Absolutely.
So 420 does have a future.
So High Times actually rode with this for a long time and helped promote it, didn't they?
Yeah, Stephen Hager, very great.
He is such a good guy. He's our friend, and we owe him a lot because he's one of the only guys that believed in us. And when we first approached him, and he says, "Well, have you got proof?" And we said, "Yeah." And he showed it to his, the staff at High Times, and there you go.
I know we got a little grief at High Times because there were so many conflicting theories about the beginnings of it.
Yeah, the police code was the biggest one.
He researched it. He's got decades and decades of journalistic experience, and like I say, been a good friend.
He's a good friend
That's
of ours.
Awesome.
And we have a lot of fun with him when he comes out to visit.
And you say you may not have made any money off it yet, but you've definitely had a lot more safaris and adventures because of it.
Yes. Well, we were doing that anyway.
I know, but it sounds like they've gotten a little bit bigger. And
oh, yeah.
That's awesome. I got another question for you, though, to go back a little bit to the Grateful Dead, since this is the Jam family. And what was it like to meet Jerry Garcia? Just out of curiosity, a sentence or two. He is such a...
Jerry, I met him one time at this concert called the Mountain Air Festival down in Calaveras County. And we went to the show, a friend of mine, and we were sleeping on a lawn in sleeping bags in front of the library. Some lady gave us a dirty look that morning. My friend had this place called the Avery Ranch, and he invited us up there after the show, so we went up there, and we were walking around, and there's Jerry sitting on this little cabin on this cabin on the porch, and he was alone. So we went over, and me and my friend John, and we started chatting with him, and then we got high with him, and we hung out with him for about an hour and a half, and he told us stories about how Carlos Santana snuck into the Fillmore and stole all his licks, funny things like that, and he was very friendly, nice person.
We liked the Dead, but we were not Deadheads. We enjoyed the Dead. We were around them all the time, but we weren't Deadheads. We got more into the band. The New Riders of the Purple Sage were all part of the Dead, same family, all part of the Dead organization. And, of course, Jerry, for the first couple of years, played the pedal steel in the New Riders of the Purple Sage.
And Les played bass.
And then, so we got into that a little bit more. We used to, babysit some of their houses when they'd go out on tour. One time, the pedal steel player, Buddy Cage, he went out on tour, and he came back, and his wife bought a little dog, and he hates little dogs. He didn't like it. So he was came back from chore. He's sitting in his kitchen, washing dishes, looking down at the little dog, and the dog didn't have a name. So he just looked at the dog and he just scowled at it and said, "You're useless." And that became the dog's name. So we'd have to take care of Useless whenever he went out on tour. And we'd take the dog for a walk, and people say, "Oh, what a cute dog. What's his name?" And say, "Oh, he's Useless."
You guys are awesome. We have enjoyed your stories. We're looking forward to hearing more, and hopefully the book someday, or maybe even a movie.
Well, yeah. Well, you never know.
Absolutely, you don't. That's one
and
of the
we're
great things
available.
about life. Well, next time I'm in California, I'm going to look you guys up, which hopefully will be soon. You guys sound like a lot of fun to hang out with.
What station is this now?
This is 1100 Entertainment in Atlanta.
This is AM 1100 WWWE in Atlanta.
Are you guys? Is this live now?
Yes, it is.
Live.
But
Here's my radio voice.
It's
live.
It's too late for that.
It's 4:19. You got a minute? So one last question for you before we let you guys go and enjoy your evening. Free 420 Fest. What do you have planned for tomorrow on 420?
Well, I have to get together with some family, so I don't think I'm going to be doing anything. But Steve said he's going to go.
I'm going to stop by Terrapin Crossroads, Phil Lesch's club down there.
Absolutely. Who's playing tomorrow?
In the afternoon. What's that?
Who's playing? Do you know offhand?
It's the family band. Like that.
The
family house band.
Yeah.
I didn't. Another friend told me that it starts at 4:20. Actually, the family house band. So I'll pop down there at some time in the afternoon.
That sounds awesome. I haven't been there yet, but I heard it's an amazing place.
Oh, it's the great room. You'll like it. It's like having a little party with Phil Lesch.
Yeah, and everyone wants to play there when they come through.
Yep.
He's always been very friendly.
Yeah, he's a good man.
He's a good guy.
I like
Phil. He's awesome. As I said, we're big Deadheads, so they changed my life when I first heard them completely. Well, you guys have been great. Thanks for sharing with us tonight and giving us the real story on 420 and how it's taken off globally. And I think all the stoners out there.
And if you don't know, now you know.
Exactly. They thank you for creating this holiday, Festivus for the
no
rest of
problem.
us.
You're welcome. And what we want to say to everybody out there is, Happy 420.
Happy 420, you guys. Keep on rocking.
Have you been out drinking tonight? No worries. Now you can take Mark's Magic Carpet Ride. Climb aboard this cozy rug to be whisked home with the quickness. Next time you're out and about in need of a ride, call the most magical service of them all. If all carpets are booked, call Safe Ride America. We'll drive you and your car home for less than the price of a taxi. Call us at 404-888-0887 or go to callsaferide.com.